maybe we should take a minute just to look around the room and see who's here. All the different places that we've come from. Be it Zambia, Nigeria. I have had the opportunity to go to Nigeria a few times. Wonderful place. So we have the African continent included. We've got the European continent included. We've got South Americans. And of course, we've got Americans. So what is it that is binding us all together? It's the Spirit of Christ. It's the Holy Spirit and His love for us and His love for children. So what do we have? We have me in North America. We have my sister over here in Zambia. Now, the way I got over to North America was not on a cruise ship. It was a ship. But we had an institution here, or you had an institution here in Great Britain. Trump made Britain great again. And for quite a long time, it was just business. We pick up and buy people in Africa. We put them on a ship, chain them down. Can you imagine what it would be like for weeks to be laying in your own waste, tossed to and fro across the Atlantic Ocean, and then to arrive in a country where you get sold into horrendous conditions? Now, I'm not condemning the British, of course not. What you need to understand is that human beings without Christ are capable of anything. You are without Christ, there's no telling what you might do. Look at what I used to do. I would walk into an exam room, see a woman that I'd never seen before. I don't care about the woman, I don't care about the baby. I'm there just to do an abortion, do my business, and get out. What's it like? I don't know what it's like for a woman to go through an abortion. I know it is traumatic because it's not natural that a woman reject their child. God created women, their biology, their physiology, their hormones, that when they become pregnant, they go into a whole situation, a whole series of events that are preparing the woman to be a mother. So what does the woman become more like? Protection. They want to protect the baby. They want to nurture the child. Whether that woman is either pro-choice or pro-life, you cannot change the biology of that woman. It happens naturally because that's the way they were created. Abortion is not a natural thing. It's extremely traumatic. It damages, of course, kills the child. It could physically hurt the woman in many ways, but emotionally, psychologically, a woman never really gets over an abortion. It's such a traumatic event. Some women, they may have it, and it's just like Syl Richards, Planned Parenthood, said, there's really no big deal. Do you know what amount of denial it takes for her to stand up in public and say, I killed my baby and it's no big deal? Think either it's a massive amount of deception, which I believe it is, or she's just ignorant. Maybe a combination of the two. Now, as a former abortionist, I will tell you right off, I knew for a fact that abortion was wrong. I mean, the basic science tells you that when the sperm and the egg come together and it makes one cell, that's the beginning of your human development. When you are one cell, you are the same human being today at the time when that sperm and egg came together. It's the same human being. Don't get caught up in these euphemisms. They talk about, well, it's a person, it's not a person yet, and that doesn't happen until so many weeks. All of those pro-choicers make all of that stuff up. Yesterday, during an interview on Friendship Christian Radio, I had the opportunity to sit next to a lady. I would say she's probably about 70 years old, and Sean was speaking of her earlier this morning about how this woman has performed 10,000 abortions. And just very matter-of-factly, she thinks that it was the right thing to do. I didn't ask all of the questions that I would want to ask, but I would say, is there at least one out of the 10,000 that you have remorse for? Maybe 2 or 3 that maybe should have been done, should not have been done? What's it like to be retired as a physician that had been called for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to heal and to comfort? That's the purpose of a physician, not to take life. Think about what an abortion is. The abortion is a procedure where you kill a child. It's the only procedure that doctors do where the objective is to have less life and less health than when you meet the patient. It's the only procedure. A successful abortion ends in a baby's death. That's a successful abortion. An unsuccessful abortion, which doesn't happen very often, is when the baby might survive. Exactly the opposite logic of the way we approach all other medical problems. Pregnancy is a normal state of human development. Pregnancy is not a disease. It's a normal stage of our health, of a woman's health and reproductive capabilities. We mentioned my wife earlier. Noreen sends her greetings. She and I met approximately 36 years ago. You know, you women are key in the pro-life movement. Now, Sean didn't mention it, but the way Sean ended up on 29th Street, his wife said, not his wife at the time, let's say we're boyfriend and girlfriend, Aggies, she said, get your butt up and come down to the clinic with me. Period. So Sean had to make a choice. And Sean's pro-choice. And Sean made the right decision. Do you see a young lady who sees a young man that she wants to spend the rest of her life with say, well, we're going to do something meaningful. We're going to go and pray in front of the Planned Parenthood clinic. Now, Sean was very emphatic when he talked about all you need is 2. Well, technically, I guess, God is a majority all by himself. He probably could do it without us, but God wants us to share in the victory of beating this abortion anti-human movement. He wants to use you and you and you. And I'm so blessed that Mary Lisa pulled Sean out there, and the rest is history. It's wonderful. I'm so glad to see Nathaniel here, enjoying himself and assimilating things that are going to help him as he gets involved in this movement. Abortion, or the anti-human spirit, or the anti-child movement didn't start in the United States in 1973, or in the UK, I believe it was 1967. You got to remember who the enemy is. The enemy is not that doctor that I interviewed with, who has seemingly a hardened heart, and my heart goes out to her. Oh my God, to think of where she is. And she also added that she's an atheist. It's a sad place to be. A sad place to be. Also yesterday, had the opportunity to stand in front of the hospital where young baby Guard is. And to come to the revelation that, wow, here it is, the state has made a decision that you as a parent should be making. They're going to decide what the health outcome for your child is. The government's already said, well, we don't care about the preborn. We've had 55 million abortions in the United States since 1973. So that's the state. But to go back to what I was saying earlier, this is not a new thing. Let's think back, all you Bible scholars out there. There were a group of people that ended up in Egypt, Jacob and his sons, and the rest of their families. And in Egypt, they became a very powerful people, the Hebrew people. What Pharaoh noticed was that these people are becoming more and more powerful. So what does Pharaoh do? Well, he did what the devil usually influences you to do. We've got to do something about these lives. So he put out an edict that all of the Hebrew midwives, when they would birth a boy, that they would kill it. So what the Hebrew midwives did, they didn't go along with it. They kept birthing those babies, okay? So it got back to the federal government. Of course, Pharaoh is both God and government. And I guess they sent out the local Planned Parenthood officials to the midwives and said, hey, we hear that y'all still birthing those baby boys. What's the deal? Didn't you get your orders from God, from the government, from Pharaoh? And they said, oh, well, you know, the Hebrew women, oh, they're so stout and they go through labor and delivery so rapidly. By the time we get there, the baby's born and nursing already, and so we can't do that. But the point is, the Hebrew midwives did what God wanted and not what the government wanted. And you see the outcome. Israel is still alive and still prospering against unbelievable odds. Fast forward a little bit. Jesus is born. King Herod wants to worship him, right? Well, the wise men from the east knew that Herod was up to no good, so they decided they wouldn't let him know where baby Jesus was. So what does the government do? What did King Herod do? He sent out an edict that all male children under the age of 2 be killed. Anti-human personality. The government at work. But they did not get Jesus. And of course, we see abortion in the United States, we see this. And if you go to the 12th chapter of Revelation, you will see a scene there where they're talking about how the dragon, and the dragon is Satan, the enemy, how he's at the foot of the woman, ready to devour the child. What you learn from this is that the devil's scheme doesn't change, whether it was in Egypt under Pharaoh, the United States, UK, or wherever, and in the future, the devil is up to the same scheme: to steal, kill, and destroy. His playbook, very, very thin, but he has a lot of variations to the way he goes about it. So I grew up in Los Angeles, good home. I always wanted to be a physician from about the age of 4 or 5. I don't know why, it was just my calling. I believe physicians should be called and they should not just choose medicine as a profession. Medicine is a ministry. You're dealing with people in the most crucial times of their lives. When they're ill, when they need someone to hold their hand, when they need to know that there's a person working for their best interests, for their health. Abortion is not something that God designed doctors to do. But abortion has been around a long time. It was addressed even in the time of Hippocrates, which is, more than 2,000 years ago. The Hippocratic Oath was an oath that used to be esteemed by medicine and had basically 4 tenets. Number 1, that you would not share the information or the content of what happened between you and that patient. Patient confidentiality, number 1. Number 2, that you not have sex with your patients. Number 3, that you would not be involved in euthanasia. And number 4, that you would not perform abortions. So that was a non-spiritual commitment by medicine. And clearly, you know that from our Christian point of view, that we're supposed to be pro-life. So when I look at this and I see that from this meeting, you people are going to be going back to your various venues, hopefully encouraged and energized, anointed to take your local campaigns to the next level. So what was it like doing abortions? I trained at Martin Luther King Hospital in Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles. Some people call it Compton. That's the area where I grew up. Inside that hospital, I learned to do the abortion procedure. Now, what happens is that once you learn to do that, there are these clinics all around Los Angeles which need doctors to perform abortions. A layperson can open up a clinic, but they need to hire the doctor to do the dirty work. And basically the way it worked is that the physician would get a cut and the owner of the clinic gets a cut. And of course, the patient loses their child. My wife and I would, well, at that time we weren't married, but we call moonlight at these various clinics. Moonlighting is when you just work outside of your regular job, which was mine at the hospital. Very, very easy money. I think back on what it was like to walk into a room, and this is into an exam room, where a woman is there and you know she really doesn't want to be there. She's still hoping, like that woman Sean was talking about, that there's going to be a possibility of a miraculous breakthrough and I can bust the heck out of here and keep the child. What Sean talked about, that unfortunately doesn't happen very often. That never happened to me. Once I walked in that exam room, I knew I had a job to do. In 7 to 10 minutes, it would all be done. Not much eye contact. Why? Because when you look at a person, the eyes are the window to the soul. You don't want to make any compassionate bond to this woman you're about to do an abortion on, because this is just business. You go in there, the lady is put up in the stirrups, you do your anesthesia, you dilate the cervix. You might say something like, well, just breathe, this will be over in just a few minutes. While the woman is laying there, looking up at the ceiling, recognizing this is the last day she has her baby. Many times there are young ladies that would ask the nurses afterwards, and we're talking about, these first trimester abortions, and of course the baby is very small. But many times they would ask, was it a boy or a girl? Was it a boy or they just want something so they can have some closure, some bit of a humanity that goes along with this great, great loss that they're experiencing. Did abortions tell you a little bit about the hospital? I want you to think about the second floor of Martin Luther King Hospital. Now, Martin Luther King's niece, Martin Luther King's brother's daughter, is real powerful in the pro-life movement. She's part of a Priests for Life, and she often talks about what she thinks Dr. King would have been with respect to the abortion issue. And of course, she talks about how, as a pastor, how he's about life and his conservatism. But he also made a quote. He says, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." This movement we're called to, I don't know when abortion is going to be made illegal. It's not about time for us. David B. Wright used to always remind Sean, it's not about the time. Sometimes when is anything going to happen? I want to see something happen. No, it's about you remaining faithful and saying, I'm going to stand here. I'm not going to move my feet because this is God saying that if God is for us, who can be against us? So, Martin Luther King Hospital, second floor, labor and delivery unit. Let me tell you, any doctors or midwives out there? No? You're a doctor and midwife? Oh, congratulations. Next year she finishes in medicine. And believe me, she will not be doing abortions. Let me tell you, there is nothing like delivering a baby. Absolute. I cannot tell you the joy of what it's like to be there, to help pull that child out, to clamp the cord, and then cut it, wrap it up, and show that baby to the parents. There are no words for it. I mean, many of y'all have gone through that, but as a physician, let me tell you that you never get tired of something like that. Yes, sometimes you have to get up at 2, 3 in the morning to do it, but I tell you, once you get there, that joy, there is nothing like the joy of a new life coming into the world. To watch those parents for the first time physically look at their child. Wow. So exactly the opposite, 180 degrees. That's what abortion is. As equally joyous and happy in the delivery is the sadness and tragedy of abortion. Martin Luther King Hospital, labor and delivery, having great, great fun. Now babies, after deliver, they go to the nursery. In the nursery, we also have premature babies, right? Because sometimes women deliver prematurely. There may be babies in there that are 28 weeks, 3 months short of a normal term. And we have all of these things connected to the babies, the ventilator, the IVs, all kind of thing. And we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to sustain this life. That is only a few hundred, or just a few meters from labor and delivery. So labor and delivery, you're delivering the babies, your joy, you get them over to the nursery, they're either term or premature, and we're fighting to keep that baby. But right down the hall, another few meters, is another room. That's the room where we do abortions. One floor in the same hospital, in one hospital, great, great joy, nursery, but right down the hall, you're doing these abortions. Does that tell you that we are just really confused? We are really deceived that you think on one day, or sometimes even the same day, you're going to be delivering a baby and killing it and killing another on the same day. The thing that happens in the abortionist mind is almost somewhat of a supernatural sensation, because being a part of delivery, that's supernatural. You think about it. Egg and sperm come together, and 40 weeks later, there's this living, breathing other human being around. That is absolutely, absolutely amazing. So in a way, you kind of feel, yeah, I'm not so bad. I'm Dr. Robinson, highly esteemed physician of the community. But the other thing you do, you have a group of women who may be pregnant and maybe in some crisis. Maybe it's a student at the university who doesn't want their parents to know that they got pregnant, that wants to continue their education. A woman who may be married and think they have enough children, or whatever the circumstance. You're going to have these situations where it's going to be challenging. So, back to my situation. Here I am, still thinking abortion is right, moved from California to Texas, and I have an encounter with Jesus Christ. Now, when you have an encounter with Christ, he's going to win. All right, he's going to have his way. I would have hoped that it would have happened before I got involved with abortion, but that's up to him. But all I can do is tell you that as a sinner saved by grace, I'm just so thankful that he saved me, he saved my wife, and turned us around and put us in the pro-life movement. And that's a blessing. The first pro-life activity I got involved in was that of Pregnancy Help Center. And I'm still involved with the same Pregnancy Help Center. Became pro-life, worked in just various venues and pro-life work around the globe. Got involved with an organization called the Brazos Valley Coalition for Life, which later became 40 Days for Life. I was at the very first rally at midnight. That was about 10 years ago or so, and I can still remember the energy that we felt at that time. Planned Parenthood was open doing abortions once or twice a week. Well, by 2013, that abortion clinic in College Station, Texas, by Planned Parenthood, closed down because of the prayer of 40 Days for Life. Now, during that time, when people were praying that the clinic close, people were also praying, well, wow, this is not a bad building here. It could be used for ministry. This could be a good place. So once the building was closed, it went up for sale. And guess what happened? The Pregnancy Help Center that I'd been involved in from my beginning in the pro-life movement more than 30 years ago, and 40 Days for Life, purchased the building. We were thinking, the building, $650,000. Oh, wow, where are we going to get that? God's going, that's a problem? $650,000? Hey, pocket change. Now, once the building was sold, 40 Days for Life put their offices there. Also, the Pregnancy Help Center has one of their outlets also in the same building. And Sean mentioned it earlier, guess what? Me and my wife, former abortionists, now practice in the same building where abortions used to occur. Is that God or what? That's what he did. That's what he did. But see, he did it in partnership, in agreement with you and you and you and you. So he gives us these encouraging stories that say, stay faithful, continue the work, fight the good fight, bring more Nathaniels in, tell people, could you just come out for just 1 hour? Be encouraged, do not lose faith. I'm looking forward to during the day here visiting with some of you and sharing. It's a wonderful, rejuvenating time. I think we're going to be coming to a break right about now, Robert. It's been a blessing just to share my personal testimony with you and to say that I plan to be in this movement a while, and we will see. We're going to win this thing with God, because if God is for us, who can be against us? Amen. God bless you.